Welcome back to the Redraft Show, brought to you by the FFD Fantasy. I am Chef Dor Sanders, aka Chef GPT, aka the legendary ball knower. We're here today to talk to you today about waivers going into week 4. So we've got some key ads at multiple positions. I mean, the wide receiver position is ripe for the picking. Some low roster guys that had blow up weeks, and we're going to talk about whether or not you should add those guys. But before we get into that, I wanted to let you know that this show is sponsored by ProfitX. ProfitX is the #1 peer-to-peer sports prediction market in the world. So you're able to hop on and eliminate the house and get the best odds available using ProfitX. And when you do, use promo code FFD and get up to $200 back in your first 30 days. The more you play, the more you're able to earn back. So sign up for ProfitX. Use promo code FFD. Now, today I'm here to get into the waiver show with you. We're going to talk about some key ads at the running back position. And at the running back position, it's Trey Benson. Trey Benson got hurt, Trey Benson benefits from James Conner getting hurt. James Conner suffers the ankle injury. We thought that he would regress. And so I had been saying for a long time to add Trey Benson. He was a priority ad in any league in the 9th or 10th round range. And so now we have a guy with elite athleticism in what was one of the run heaviest. They were 5th in attempts per game in 2024. This year, they're more around the middle of the pack, like 16th. But I think that that's going to correct itself. I mean, Drew Petzing, for all of his, shortcomings with the passing game, no pun intended. But is that a Kyler Murray? I don't know if that's a Kyler Murray joke or not. But anywho, this should be one of the most run-heavy environments, and you have Trey Benson, who is one of the elite athletes at the position, 6 foot, 216, 4.3. There's, a 98th percentile burst score or speed score. So I think that this is the priority ad. He's 59% rostered. So check to see if he's available. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you to go see if James Conner's backup, now the bell cow potentially for the Arizona Cardinals. You go get him if he is available. I would spend up to 50% of my fab budget just to get him onto my roster. But the other guy that I wanted to talk about is also Woody Marks. Woody Marks is, a rookie for the Houston Texans. Now, this is a guy who he looks like he's got juice. He's doing all the right stuff. Nick Chubb's looked okay, but they're going to be in these negative game scripts, presumably, and they haven't been effective at running the ball. So I think that he's going to assume more of a role in the passing game. We're not worried about Dare Ogunbowale or Nick Chubb catching passes. So he's got that role built in. I do think that this is a guy who's only 19% roster. He played a career high 48% of the snaps in week 3. So with this, this is a free money machine. You can just go get him probably for less than, 5% of your fab budget, or $5 if you're doing it off of $100 budget. So Woody Marks is the other guy that I wanted to highlight at the position. Now, for some deep league stash guys, Jeremy McNichols broke off the 60-yard run for the Washington Commanders. He played 26% of the snaps. Chris Rodriguez handled most of the work. He played 38% of the snaps. That's the Washington Commanders backfield. Choose your adventure. All right. So I don't know what's going to happen there, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you to spend a bunch of fab, but if you want to go with the touch volume, sure. But Jeremy McNichols looks like more explosive player, but I think it's eventually going to just be JCM. They're going to realize that they got to give that guy more touches. So Ollie Gordon is another guy. He played on Thursday night, so you might not even remember. He's only 34% roster. He played 25% of the snaps. He finished with his first career touchdown. So you have him in what could be that Raheem Mostert role. Now, their offense isn't what it was when Raheem Mostert took over. They're just not as explosive. So, I wouldn't spend very much of this. Honestly, if you weren't rostering him already and it's a shallow bench league, you can throw him on the bench if it's like 7 or more bench spots. But Ollie Gordon, 34% rostered, he could have that Raheem Mostert role as like the goal line power back. Actually, he does. And so I think that that's worth a roster spot. But we can move on to the wide receiver position. The wide receivers, the must-add guy of the week, the topic du jour, the guy, the catching Canuck. I don't really know how else to describe Mr. Elic Ayomanor, one of the lone bright spots as a Titans fan this season. He's 50% rostered. This is not a drill, though. We got two straight weeks with a touchdown. 14 first read targets, trails only Calvin Ridley, who has been putrid thus far this year. He's tied with Calvin Ridley for contested targets, and he's got a much higher contested catch percentage on said targets. And he's got 110 passer rating on target, like when targeted. So this is a guy that I believe if Brian Callahan wants to stay employed for much longer, he's going to have to incorporate into this offense even more than he already is. So Elic Ayomanor is the must-add guy of the week. I'd spend up to 25% of my fab because him and Cam Ward are going to have something brewing here pretty soon. And he's a big physical guy, and it's already paying off. So go get Elic Ayomanor. Don't say that I didn't warn you. Trey Tucker had the blow-up week. I mean, this is incredible. This was a lifetime. This is Jawan Jennings of 2024. So I think that this is more signal than noise with Trey Tucker. Trey Tucker's only 6% rostered. He ran the most routes in the league. He's the cardio king. And now with a guy with the deep ball prowess of Geno Smith, you get fireworks like this. So Trey Tucker, we all thought it was going to be Dante Thornton, but it turns out that it's Trey Tucker. So Trey Tucker, second and first read targets among the Raiders wide receivers. His expected fantasy points trailed only Jacoby Myers amongst the wide receivers. He's got a 27% air yard share, and this is a guy who's only 6% rostered. That number is going to, we're going to do backflips over that number. He could be up over 50% rostered after waivers run on Wednesday. So Trey Tucker's a guy, hey, let's just stash him and see what happens because Geno has access to the field, parts of the field where Trey Tucker could be lethal with his deadly speed. So
what's good? You know the phrase, the house always wins? Well, not anymore with our new sponsor, ProfitX. ProfitX is America's #1 sports prediction market. It's a peer-to-peer sports prediction market where users play against each other instead of a sports book versus the house. You almost always get the best price on any spread, money line, total, or player prop since you're playing against other people rather than the book. Looks and feels like a sports book, but with way better odds. So what are you waiting for? Go down the app, download the app, and get to work. Use promo code FFD and claim up to $200 in profit cash on all plays for the first 30 days of playing on site. Terms and conditions apply, of course. We're early in the week. It's Monday here, so we don't have a ton of options just yet. But as the week goes on, ProfitX gets better and better and better. More peers signing up to challenge you and more liquidity available. So lots of good stuff as goes on, and we'll have some other reads for you. But right off the rip, the one that I found interesting, Philly, Tampa, home dogs for Tampa Bay, 3.5. Weather initial report's going to be hot in Tampa next week. So you got Philly going down south, Tampa, who's just been a tough team to deal with, hard to kill. So I'm early on here. First thing for ProfitX this week, I'm looking at Tampa Bay home dog plus 3.5. Love that little hook right there. So make sure you log in, promo code FFD, ProfitX. Check it out. Peace.
Another speedster that this is signal, not noise. The Kansas City Chiefs passing game has struggled mightily over the course of this season. And one of the answers that they've gone to is Tyquan Thornton. Tyquan Thornton's only 7% rostered. Played 75% of the snaps. He's played 70% of the snaps. So he's a full-time player. He's got 4.28 speed. He's had at least 50 yards in the touchdown in back-to-back weeks. This is not a drill. We need to get Tyquan Thornton on our rosters ASAP. This is not something that we need to be, hemming and hawing about. You won't have to spend very much because people are going to say, oh, Tyquan Thornton, that's the dude from the Patriots. They'll suck. And they're still not adjusting. But 9 targets, 5 catches, 70 yards and touchdown. The week before against the Eagles, he should have had over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. So this is a guy that we need to get on the roster ASAP. I wanted it to be Jalen Royals because I was a big Jalen Royals fan. But look, we got to adjust to the information. It's Tyquan Thornton. He's getting the targets. He's making the plays. So we need to signal, not noise. Do with that information what you will. Now I'm going to give you a couple guys that we need to stash post waivers. This is if you watch the Dynasty channel at all, you've seen me talk about this guy and him potentially earning a role immediately because all he had to do was beat out MVS and Jake Bobo. And if you can't beat out MVS and Jake Bobo, you probably don't need to be on the field in the first place. But he's done nothing but impress since arriving in Seattle. And that's going to be Tory Horton. Tory Horton, back-to-back games at 30 yards and a touchdown, 95-yard punt return touchdown. Shows off the elite 4.41 speed. He played 49% of the snaps, and now he's got a clear runway to wide receiver 2 or being the second or third target. Cooper Kupp's snaps have declined each week. He's got 2 receptions in 2 or 3 games, the lone exception being the 7-reception game. I'd spend a few dollars in my fab. You don't have to burn your waiver priorities on him. You can just wait until see if he clears waivers and then just stash him and swap him out. I meant to do it earlier this week. I actually set an alarm so that I could go around the witching hour and, just go pick up Tory Horton for the late game slate. Do with that information what you will. Tory Horton is an elite athlete and a really good, really, really good player. I just don't think that people realize that he shouldn't have been a 5th-round pick. That was solely related to injury. But let's move on. Another Titans receiver. This is weird. All right. I understand it's going to be a little weird, but in deep leagues, you could stash a guy like Chimere Dike. Chimere Dike is getting manufactured touches. This is way off the beaten path. I'm going to spend way too much time on Chimere Dike here, but he's an elite return guy. He's great with the ball in his hands. Just on 15 routes last week, he had 4 targets, and those 3 first read targets that he got tied with Calvin Ridley and Tyler Lockett. So this might be a youth movement in Tennessee sooner than later, especially if they have to keep watching Calvin Ridley play football. I don't think that that's beneficial for anybody at this point. And then one more guy that I wanted to talk about, the receiver position, is going to be Luther Burden III. Luther Burden III, career high in yards, targets, catches, and he scored his first career touchdown. He set the mark for snap participation. This is, if you believed in Luther Burden from a talent perspective, like former 5-star recruit, broke out, was in consideration for the number 1 wide receiver of this class going into 2024. Obviously, some things happened. He didn't have the season he wanted, but he lands with Chicago Bears, and now they're drawing up trick plays. He's not playing full-time snaps yet, but if you want to get ahead of the curve, you roster a guy like Luther Burden because he does have that deep downfield ability. And listen, if you don't know much about him, he's electric with the ball in his hands. So you want to stash a guy like that because the upside, if something happens and, all of a sudden he's thrust into a leading role, this is a guy who's more than capable of being the focal point of an offense. And not to say he's going to supplant Rome Odunze, but there's plenty to go around. So at the tight end position, we'll keep it short and sweet. Actually, I forgot. Parker Washington. So I don't really know what's going on. Shane Waldron got them boys cooking up some nasty garbage gumbo or whatever they do in Jacksonville. I don't know. Maybe they just stand in a circle with their jorts and say Duval, but into tears, into their beers. But anywho, Parker Washington is a guy I want to talk about. 0.33 targets per route run this past week. 10 targets, 71% of the snaps, which is a season high for him. That's interesting to me because he's looked good every single time he's gotten an opportunity. So definitely want you to keep an eye on Parker Washington. That's another guy that you could probably let clear waivers. And if you just wanted to, turn over that last spot on your bench, then Parker Washington could do it. But there's another guy. There is another. Oronde Gadsden II. Now, if you've watched any of the Dynasty content, you've seen me talking about this guy and being very, 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 very excited. So I think that if you're hurting at tight end, I'm out of George Kittle, so I had to start Jake Tunges this past week. I won't be doing that again because I'm going to go pick up Oronde Gadsden. So he had 5 first read targets, his 0.2 first downs per route run, led the Chargers. He was second in QBR when targeted this past week, and he lined up 53% in the slot. So if you know anything about Oronde Gadsden or you know anything about what I've told you about Oronde Gadsden, this is perfect for what we were pretending, just dreaming about this role potentially being. So if he's going to be up and he's going to be active, he made his debut this past week, this is a guy that you probably want to start paying attention to because it seems like Justin Herbert is in full sicko mode. He's going to be spreading the wealth around, and that creates an opportunity for a guy like Oronde Gadsden, who is a literal mismatch, a wide receiver playing tight end. So keep that in mind for your post waivers. You can just check it out. I mean, he's 1% rostered right now. So that's pretty much it for this week. I mean, I'm really excited to see how this turns out. But if I missed anybody, if there's anybody you want me to talk about, leave a comment. Like I said, if you made it this far, like subscribe, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I'm here. We're going to be here. I'm Chev. We're here. The FFD Fantasy Redraft in them streets. So until next time, there's ball watchers and ball knowers. Assign yourselves accordingly.